I'm very pleased to be here in Athens and to have the possibility to talk to you about Minergie. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much to Mr. Papadaniel for the invitation to this Congress. As you have heard by Mr. Walter Steinmann, there is a lot of work to be carried out in Switzerland what the buildings are concerned. But the same has to be done in Athens or in Greece. All over the place we have a lot of old buildings and we are putting up new buildings. Some of the buildings are very energy efficient and some less energy efficient. To make one thing clear, Minergie as a building standard can be applied to all your buildings in Athens or in Greece, all over the place. A few words to Minergie. Minergie is a non-profit organization and we are working together very closely with the Federal Office of Energy, with the cantons and with the Fürstentum Liechtenstein. That's very important as well. What I want to talk to you is the building standard as a success factor to the energy turnaround. Mr. Walter Steinmann was talking about all the work we have to do about the turnaround. And as we learned, 50% of the energy consumed in Switzerland is consumed by the buildings. And Minergie was introduced in 98, 14 years ago, and is a pioneer in Swiss energy policy. And I'm going to talk to you about why Minergie doesn't like open windows. And of course, I'm going to show you a few examples of Minergie buildings. And I will talk to you about Minergie International. You have seen a similar graphic by Mr. Walter Steinmann. That's the total consumption of energy in Switzerland. Of course, we are using energy for our cars, for our planes, but the main part of the energy consumption is used in buildings, and it's a little less, as I have learned by the slide of Mr. Papadaniel. In Greek, it's about 25 to 30%, because, of course, you have a bit nicer climate. But in Switzerland, as we have heard, it's about 50%. And there we can do a lot of improvements. We can improve the energy efficiency very easily. I'm not going to talk about the climate problem because we know we have a problem, and what we are doing to the climate, I don't know what is going to happen. But of course this picture says enough. Some 30 years ago or some 40 years ago, in the 70s, we were allowed in Switzerland to build bad buildings, what energy is concerned. We were allowed to use 22 liters of heating oil per square meter and year. Then the cantons said, we are using too much energy in the buildings, so we have to improve this. And then they said we go down in the 90s to 12 liters per square meter, and then in the year 2000 down to 9 liters per square meter. And because Minergie was introduced in 1998 with a figure of 4.2 liters per square meter energy consumption in a house, the canton said we are going down, we are improving our law, and we are asking for a new figure of 4.8 liters. Minergie, when you build nowadays a Minergie house, you can do this in the basic standard, and then you are allowed to use only 3.8 liters, or you do a passive house or a Minergie P house, which can use only 3 liters or 30 kilowatt hours for heating and warm water and cooling. And last year we did introduce, as the first organization worldwide, clear plus energy standard. With the Minergie A, we have introduced the plus energy standard. And up to now, we did certify about 200 buildings according to the toughest, to the newest standard of Minergie A. To show you the problem in Switzerland, and it's exactly the same problem in Greece or in other countries all over the world. We have a lot of old buildings using far too much energy, 22 liters or even more per square meter. And there we have a lot to do. When you renovate such a building according to the Minergie standard for renovation, then you are allowed to use 6 liters. That means you improve the energy efficiency by a factor of 3 or 4. And that's, of course, a hell of a lot. Or when you realize the building in a new standard, of course, as you have learned, 3.8 liter, or as I said, nil, zero energy or plus energy buildings. And about 80% of the buildings in Switzerland should be renovated, 1.5 million buildings, as you have seen on the slide by Mr. Steinmann. What is Minergie? Minergie is a very straightforward standard. It's very easy to realize. To realize a building which is using only very little energy, 3.8 liter heating oil or 38 kilowatt hours energy, that means you have to have a good insulation. And of course, the building should be pretty airtight. That's quite important. And of course, to improve the comfort and the energy efficiency, we are asking for an air changing system. It's not air conditioning like this one, which makes a hell of a lot of noise and of course is using a lot of energy. It's an air changing system. We are talking of a comfort ventilation. These are the main measures to attain Minergie standard. You should have a good building, and of course it should be pretty compact, as presented here. That's a Minergie building, and that's it's very difficult to realize this as an energy efficient building. Then of course you have to have a very good insulation, protecting you against the heat and the cold. And in Greece, we are talking, of course, mainly protecting you against the heat. Therefore, we are asking for sunshades. When you want to have nice climate during summertime in Athens, you need a proper professional sunshade system. And of course, as I said, it should be pretty airtight. And then, of course, we are using in Switzerland, in the new building sector, mainly heat pumps, working with air as the energy source or working with the earth as an energy source. And the heat distribution is made mainly by water systems. That's actually the normal way to heat in Switzerland. And as I said, we are using comfort ventilation with heat recovery integrated. That's a slide with the explanation of the 3 standards of Minergie. We did start in 1998 with Minergie, the basic standard. That's for low energy consumption buildings. And then we did realize in 2002 Minergie P, which maybe you are knowing the Passivhaus standard. It's almost a similar standard as the Passivhaus standard Minergie P for very low energy consumption buildings. And then, as I said, in March last year, we did introduce Minergie A as a plus energy building standard. In the EU, we are talking about nearly zero energy buildings, and Minergie A, of course, is a zero energy building standard or a plus energy building standard. And as I said, we are asking always for an air changing system. And all the standards can be improved with Minergie, with ECO. can be combined with eco. Eco stands for healthier, healthier construction materials, and of course daylight use and all that sort of recycling materials, all that stuff. The Minergie standard for building, of course, can be seen when you enter a building, because all the buildings, and up to now we did certify in Switzerland and around Switzerland about 26,000 buildings, office buildings, villas, school houses, all sorts of buildings. And each building is having a plaquette with a number on it from the canton and then a following number. That means you can visit all the buildings on our website and you see what sort of heating system is in that building. Why Minergie doesn't like open windows? I had a nice room in a hotel last night at a very busy street, just opposite of the House of Parliament. And I was happy that I could close the window and had air conditioning, because it's very, very noisy 24 hours a day. And when you open the windows to get fresh air, you get a lot of noise into your office or into your bedroom. And in Switzerland, we are talking about 60% of the population is having a noise problem. That's why we are asking for air changing systems, so you don't have to need to open the windows. Or about 23% of the population in Switzerland are having allergy problems, pollen problems, and that's the same. Open windows and you have the problem in your room. Or the humidity problem, when you are taking a shower in the morning and all the members of your family are taking showers and then you leave your house, then maybe when you come back you have such a situation in your bathroom. That's another point. That's why we are asking for an air changing system. And in rooms like this one, a lot of people breathing and producing CO2. And that's a big problem in schools. The kids are breathing and producing CO2, and the windows should be open all during the lessons, but you can't because of the noise or because it's too cold or too warm. And that's another point for the air changing system for comfort ventilation. Or fine dust concentration can be pretty high in Athens as well, I could imagine, and in Switzerland. All the places where we live, where we travel by car, where we produce heat by fossil energy, there we produce fine dust, and fine dust gets through the window into your lung, and that's not what we want. And such situations you can see all over the place during summertime. When you open the window in summer and it's 40 degrees in Athens, the heat gets into the room, and of course in Switzerland we do have sometimes snow, like in Athens as well sometimes, and then of course you have a problem with the temperature in your house. And to show you with this picture what such a ventilation system does to your lung. That's a fresh air filter, the top picture. All this dirt would go into the room where you sleep or where you work and would get into your lung. Or even the dust in the room, of course, is then collected in the filter. We are using in Switzerland air ventilation systems like this one, a single installation for one flat, or you have central system for big houses with a lot of flats. You have central systems mainly down in the cellar. And of course you can always open the windows. You don't have to open the windows to get fresh air, but you can. That's very important, because a lot of people say in Switzerland, Minergie, that's okay, but I don't like not to be able to open the windows. That's wrong. You can always open the windows, and that's pretty important. And of course, the benefits for the owners and for the residents and even for the investors is clear. We want to have a high level of comfort in our houses and in our offices. And of course, the temperature shouldn't go up and down, up and down. It should be all day long, 24 hours a day, almost the same level. And the humidity problem, as I was showing a picture, of course, is another point, that you have 24 hours, that's almost the same humidity. And then, of course, no condensation occurs, and the noise problem I was already saying to you. I'm going to show you a few buildings. All of the buildings are certified according to Minergie. On top of the Klein Matterhorn, about 4,000 meters altitude, there is a restaurant certified according to Minergie, and this villa in Saint-Tropez is certified according to Minergie. That means Minergie can be carried out on top of the Klein Matterhorn or down in Saint-Tropez. Or this very famous and very modern cabin in Monte Rosa Massif, close to Zermatt, is certified according to Minergie P. But we are certifying, of course, other buildings as well. This West Side complex, shopping and wellness. The architect was Daniel Liebeskind. It's a very huge center in Bern, is certified according to Minergie. Or this villa, modern villa, constructed in wood. Or the highest building these days in Switzerland, the Swiss Prime Tower in Zurich, has been certified according to LEED and has received the Minergie certificate as well. Or this Rolex Learning Center, our colleague from Lausanne, he may know this place because he's a professor there. It's a very famous, architect. The very famous architect Sana from Japan are responsible for the design of this building. Flats in Zurich, or the old headquarters of Swissair has been renovated according to Minergie. Nowadays it's a very modern business center close to the airport in Zurich. The Swiss Army Library, it's an old building as well, is renovated according to Minergie. With all these pictures I'm showing the possibilities certifying buildings according to Minergie. 3 flats in such a nice house, close to the road, a lot of noise, a lot of dirt, and of course with the air changing system you have a comfortable home afterwards. Or this very old building in the town of Zurich has been renovated, and now it looks nicer than a very new building. Very tall building in Bern has been close to the motorway. The people living in this building weren't happy with the noise of the motorway. Nowadays, of course, they sleep very well because they don't have to open the windows, and they spend much less for the energy because the energy consumption in this building has dropped from 21 liters per square meter down to 6 liters. An improving factor by 3. Such blocks of flats we have a lot in Switzerland, and of course when all these buildings would be renovated according to Minergie, then of course we would achieve the figures which we learned by Walter Steinmann. This building in brick, that's quite interesting. External insulation couldn't be carried out. Therefore, the building is insulated inside. And nowadays it looks very nice and with a very good comfort for the people living in this place. Before and after the renovation, the family living in this place, they had problems with the humidity. Behind the fridge, they had this nice I don't know what we call it, champignon, Pilze. And then, of course, because of the oil heating, they had a problem with oil. It was smelling all over the place from oil. And then, of course, they installed a heat pump using the air as an energy source. And then, of course, producing the heat temperature with this heat pump for the heating system and, of course, for the hot water. And here you see the air ventilation system with the filters. And, of course, nowadays the family living in this place is very happy. Or the headquarters of the biggest food and non-food distributor in Switzerland, Migros, has been renovated according to Minergie. And people working there nowadays are very happy. To show you two buildings which have been certified according to Minergie A, this house in Schwyz is using a solar collector to produce hot water for the kitchen and the bathroom, and of course to support the heating system. And on the roof we have a fully integrated photovoltaic installation to produce the electricity power. And of course this building is producing the 200% or 100% more as the building is using throughout the year. And such installations are carried out quite often nowadays, fortunately, for our energy turnaround. Or another building certified according to Minergie A, a single family house with photovoltaic installation on the roof, and then solar thermi for the hot water. Minergie is not only a chance for the people living in such a place, it's a chance for industry and trade as well. And of course, I'm going to show you a few pictures. IKEA, you know this Swedish company. All the buildings constructed in Switzerland are certified according to Minergie, and of course, IKEA are promoting the Minergie standard against the consumers, against the clients entering the IKEA shops. Or Vigona, belonging to the Hydro concern, they do promotion with the Monte Rosa hat. When you build in Switzerland a building according to Minergie, you go to the bank and you get better mortgage rates. That's quite important. You go with the certificate signed by the canton, and you go to the bank, and a lot of banks in Switzerland are providing cheaper mortgages. Wüst und Partner, that's a real estate expert, they say people buying a Minergie flat are prepared to pay more for a Minergie flat, 6.5% a better price, because they are expecting better quality, better comfort, and of course that's very interesting for the investor. Or the canton of Wallis, they introduced in the 90s already a very good idea. When you realize a hotel like this one, the Walliserhof in Saas-Fee, and you certify the building according to Minergie, you go to the canton, and the canton says, because you are realizing a very good building, you are allowed to improve, to realize a higher utilization by 15%. That meant in this place 110 square meters more rooms for the guests, and of course because the ground is very expensive, that's very interesting for the investor. To get you an idea, Minergie, comparing with LEED or the Passive House standard, Minergie has a very broad penetration in Switzerland. And as I said already, we certified up to now about 26,000 buildings. And of course, it's important for our economy as well. Up to now, or at the moment of time, we have about a market share of 25% of the new buildings realized in Switzerland are certified according to Minergie. And of course, Minergie buildings are using much less energy as other buildings, and so we are reducing the CO2 emissions by about 300,000 tons CO2 per year. And of course, the buildings certified according to Minergie are easier to sell and are better to run, and the reflecting value is about 60 billion Swiss francs. And as the Federal Office of Energy did work out, about 6,000 workplaces in the building trade have been realized because of Minergie. Why is Minergie successful? It's quite clear, because it's clear, it's simple, and no one has to build a building according to Minergie, but more often it's been done. And of course we want to provide the people living in a Minergie place, in a Minergie house, more comfort, and of course we are working together with the Federal Office of Energy, with the cantons, and with a lot of architects and investors, and of course we have a professional communication system and marketing that's quite important. And just a few slides to a new period for Minergie. We are going to found a Minergie International Limited to export Minergie, maybe to Greece one day. Every day a lot of servers are using our website minergie.ch. For instance, German people, French people, and all sorts of people are using our website, and therefore we have a lot of visitors from Japan or from China. They are interested in Minergie, and up to now we didn't have the possibility to certify in Japan houses or in Peking. These houses were realized according to Minergie, but without a certificate. We did certify all over Europe buildings according to our standard, but up to now we have only a licensed partner in France. And this partner is carrying out Minergie according to our concept, and he is certifying the buildings in France according to our concept. And therefore, we are on the way of the foundation of Minergie International, and I'm quite sure we are going to talk again with Mr. Papadaniel and his colleagues about Minergie Greece. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Beyeeler? Any questions? Αγγλικά. Ερωτήσεις υπάρχουν για τον κύριο Beyeeler?
Yes, I would like to have a question, if I may. My name is Dimitris Haralabopoulos, and I would like... Can you hear me? Yes. My name is Dimitris Haralabopoulos, and I would like to ask you whether the Minergie standards are applied to all countries. For example, you talked about airtight apartments. In other places, we talk about natural ventilation. So whether the Minergie labeling can accommodate both practices.
Normally, we are asking for I'm calling it an organized air changing system. That doesn't mean a central system. It could be also a window opening system according to the CO2 level or to the temperature. But up to now, we don't allow the window opening made by human beings, because man and the people are not reliable enough to do a proper air changing system. But of course, we would have to adjust our standards for Athens, for instance. And in the northern part of Greece, maybe it's almost the same standard as we are realizing in the Midlands in Switzerland. Of course, we would have to talk about this. We are talking about Minergie in Abu Dhabi. Or in India, my colleague Armin Binz was just in India, and another guy from Minergie was just in Beijing. And of course, we would have to adjust our requirements for the local market.
And one more question, please. Do you Minergie standards force new regulations in Switzerland? I mean, do you see any change in the government regulations in the building sector?
Actually, up to now, Minergie, everybody could realize Minergie, but no one has to realize Minergie. It's not obligatory. And as I said, because of Minergie, because of the success of Minergie, the cantons did improve their efficiency in buildings, and that's what we want. We want to work, we want to prepare the market, the political scene to improve the energy efficiency in buildings. But we don't have the target that Minergie would be the law in Switzerland. Not at all. We want always to be one step in front of the law of energy consumption in buildings. And I think that's very important for the Federal Office of Energy and for the cantons. We support them, and we work very close together, and we have in our board in our steering board, we have 4 representatives from cantons, and the president is energy minister of the canton of Zug. Thank you.
Άλλες ερωτήσεις?